Are in Ein Yaakov and his Brachot 62a4. Okay, you're the only one who has it? Fine. So it says, we're at the part, we just finished with the eulogizer, so we're at the part where it says the Gemara cites a Braita regarding the laws of modesty in the latrine. So one more time, we have to discuss this. Tana Rabbanan, and the rabbis say, Ezuhu tzunua, who is a modest person? Okay, you would think what? That the modest person is one, if you're a girl, that covers her elbows and covers her knees. That's what the halacha says, right? Covers the elbow, cover the knees. If you're a wet, what?
Wrists. I mean, let's just not stop with the knees and elbows. Let's go like ankles, wrists.
No. Nobody says wrists. Nobody says wrists. You can say, no, I mean all you want, but nobody says wrists. As far as ankles, who says ankles?
I'm just saying that if we're going to, why stop it?
Oh, that's what the halakha is doing. It's not me stopping it. They're saying that's what modest is. Modest is you cover those things which are normally... Yeah, you cover those things which are normally covered. Okay. So that's why when you, just to address the question, that's why when you go to a beach, you're not dressed modestly. Okay? You're walking around, let's think about this. You're walking around, for a man, you're walking around in your underwear. Yeah. For a woman, you're walking around in your underwear, okay? But nobody says anything because you're at the beach. Yeah. It's attire that society has said is good. Now, I'm not saying Jewish society, but society has deemed that is acceptable to wear. But if you would see that woman walk around with a bikini in the middle, or a man walking with his Speedo, down Chicago and New York, I think the guy would be arrested, or the woman would be arrested for indecent exposure. Okay, you can't walk around in your underwear outside. Yet, if you go to a beach or the dunes, okay, then you will see people walking around in their underwear.
It's only changed in the last 70 to 80 years.
70 to 80?
Yeah,
okay.
Because I have pictures of my uncle, I think probably in the 1930s or 40s, on a beach somewhere, and he's got his tank top on. All the men had tank tops when they went to the beach. Now, maybe the trunks didn't go down to the knees.
But when they went into the water, they wore their tank top?
You went to the beach?
Really?
You had that's where the men's swimming suit was. You had your trunks and the tank top.
But they also originally had separate swimming.
You mean in general society?
Yeah.
That could be, I don't know.
I remember there was a beach in the Boston area, which was known to be, even past what, certainly while I'm alive, it was known to be separate hours. And it was not religious.
How long did you talk about?
I was living in Boston, so it was, I think it's probably up to the 70s.
Now, when I was growing up, so I'm going back to the 1950s, and we went to our public city swimming pool.
Right.
It was just the women's had a single piece suit. Of course,
okay,
the men just had trunks.
Right. My point is that if you would walk around, even in those days, by the way, if the woman would have walked around with her full bodysuit, Marilyn Monroe, in the middle of Manhattan, while they may have very catcalls, they would not have. She would have been considered a very nice woman, a very immodest woman. Yet on the beach, you don't think about it twice. That's my point. Yeah. You understand? So really, a lot of it goes by culture. So if I'm in Islamic countries, so then you have to be, for a woman, you're covering everything up.
They even go with the wrist and the ankles.
Yeah.
They cover basically everything.
They do.
Just the eyes.
Right. The eyes are the only thing you're going to see. And so that would be a different thing. So now I have to go, with the country. I don't want to, again, we're modest. So you want to go with that modesty. But in halachic terms, we don't have to do any of that. We just have to, for a woman, again, she has to cover her. The minimum would be to cover the elbows, to cover the knees, what we used to call not maxi dress, midi dress.
Even when I was in high school,
It was what they called the classic.
Below the knees.
Right,
Yeah.
they called it classic. Today they call it the classic look.
Yeah.
But that's what they used to do.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's all you have to do, Daniel. You don't have to cover anything else. There's no such concept that we have of covering. I shouldn't say no such. I'm sure somebody will come up with some shagats, but it's there's a lot of people out there. But in general, halacha doesn't hold by that. Okay, anyway, but here we're asking again, is it who tzunua? Who is it tzunua? So this is an interesting answer. It is the one who defecates during the night in the place that he defecates during the day. And we learned, what about when you go to the bathroom in the day? Can you do it in front of people? We're talking about defecation. No. Can you? It's so strange to you, right?
Why would you want to defecate in front of people? Is this like a cultural thing that I don't want?
Yes, this is a cult. No, it's not that we don't. None of us get this, by the way, because all of us go into a stall, okay, except if you're in basic training.
What about? I think I guess probably in the last couple of weeks when we were on this issue, and we were talking about like in the military barracks and your boot camp, you have all the open stalls. When we visited in Israel, I think it was going through Akko, I think.
Okay.
We saw remains of Roman fortresses and stuff like that, and there was a latrine that they had, and this would be for the number 2. They had it was like a long bench, and there was just an opening in it. Every maybe probably 3 feet apart, and another opening where you could sit. And underneath it, there was dug out a tunnel underneath it where there was constantly flowing water. So here, where you'd have a bunch of men all be sitting in just one long bench, basically, and you just walk through. The entry was open, the exit was open. It was just a passage that you walk through. And
correct.
So they weren't separated from each other per se.
Correct.
Yeah.
Again, we have become very spoiled, if you will, that we all have separate stalls. That's why, as we talked about last week, when you go on the highways, some of the highways, you'll see, even for urination, they'll put the things up so you'll separate.
That's much more common than
if you go
right.
Yeah. But if you go to the old style, you're standing next to the person. I mean, it's no big deal. And so think about it. It's all sensitivity. If I'm used to doing that, if I've been trained to do that, so then I can defecate next to my partner there, if you will. But who cares who's there? I can go. I just have to go, so I go. But what he's saying is that we have to be modest. So, we already learned. By the way, think about that. How much, just think about that. Here you have the Romans who are all sitting together. Yeah. The Greeks are all sitting together. Everybody's sitting together. And suddenly the Jews are saying, this far we can't go. Think about how much ahead of their space they were because what the Torah was mandating.
When he's talking about in front of somebody else, is he talking about like the Roman thing I just described? Or is he talking about, you're in like a public marketplace and you just kind of walk away and just, and people are standing there, they could turn around and look at you?
Well, it's also that, but we're going to see cases where in the base medrash and so on and so forth, where they have to go around. But we said, regardless, they should not do it in a place where people are going to see them.
So if you're in a public area, you need to go off and find someplace in private.
Correct. So clearly, they're saying we shouldn't be defecating in front of with people sitting next to us.
Yeah.
But you could do it with urination, not a problem.
What does that mean, urination? Your fellow Jews?
Urination, when you urinate.
Oh, okay.
Number 1.
Let's just say your nation.
No.
That's the name.
Okay, so now he says, and he explains, just as he distances himself from others from defecating by the day, so too during the night. And so he says, for the fact that he takes care to ensure his privacy even at night, when he would in any case not be seen, is proof he is truly modest. Because at night it's dark. So who's going to see you defecating? Nobody's going to see that, right? And yet you're still distancing yourself. You're going to a place you would do it during the day. So that shows you are really modest. You're really tzunua. By the way, this also explains another thing. I want to hit this up too, where this concept of tzunua or tzniut is not just dress. It's a whole thought in its own.
Behavioral.
It's a whole behavioral thing where modesty is not just a matter of dress. That's why if a woman would or a man would dress immodestly, then modestly, but act immodestly, so they've missed the point.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? That really tzunua is a mindset where I have to do certain things. I have to always have in mind that I can't do this, I can't do that, because it's not modesty. It's not tzunua. So I'm not being tzunua about it. So even if it's going to the bathroom or wherever it's going to be, it's not just the halacha says A, B, and C. I'm going to fulfill that. No, tzunua is even beyond, if you will, the halach. The halach is just laws that we have. Bottom line, this is what you can do, this is what you cannot do. But tzunua is the commentary to that, if you will. It's a whole different mindset, which is why I'm saying they are so far, modestly wise, so far ahead of everybody with what they're doing. And I'm sure that people were thinking, what are you insane? We have bathrooms set up here. These bathrooms aren't good for you? The answer is no. You people are sick. Or, as they would say, one guy said to me in college, I remember that was his word for crazy. He would say, "Oh, that's interesting." That's interesting.
He didn't want to call you crazy.
He didn't want to call me crazy. And he said to me, I said to him, interesting is a strange word you're using. Because I knew what he was saying. She said, I don't want to, it was in UMass, I remember only his first name. Rob was his first name. Nice guy. And but he said, I don't like to insult people. It's not what I do. But I find it interesting. That was his thing. Anyway, so the Gemara says, Eini, is it so? Va'amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Yehuda said the name of Rav. The Olam Yanhig Adam et Atzmo Shachar Va'arav. You said that a person is tzunua if he conducts himself, if he goes to the bathroom in the same place in the nighttime as he does in the morning. You said that's tzunua, but we have a dictum here that one should always accustom himself to defecate in the morning and at night. Early in the morning before daybreak, and at night after dark has fallen. Why? So that he will not need to distance himself from others. And he explains, one who must take the time to distance himself is placed at a certain risk because of the danger involved in postponement of defecation. We're not talking about risk from mazikin. We're not talking about risk from some spiritual demons or even people. The problem is if I hold myself in, that can cause internal problems, medical problems. So they said it's not a good thing to do. It is therefore better if one can avoid the need to distance oneself in order to find a place that's going to be private. In the present day, our scrolls thing, here we go. In the present day, since our bathrooms are generally close at hand, there is no need to accustom himself to defecating morning and evening. However, he says it is proper to do so, since defecation in a timely manner is a matter of purity and cleanliness. This is particularly true with regard to regular defecation each morning, which enables one to recite the morning prayers in a state of purity. The truth is, if you train yourself, you will go at certain times. Your body will realize this is the time to go. And that when you leave that schedule is when you mess yourself up. It's like eating. It's like anything else. Your body gets used to certain things. So that's what he was saying. You want to do this because you don't want to endanger your internal. You don't want to endanger yourself internally. You don't want to get sick, and that's a big problem for most people because they hold it in, and so you can get, according to at least modern thought. I don't know if it's science. I don't think it's science, but according to what you hear is if you hold yourself in, that can create problems in the prostate and in other places. So again, I don't know if medical science agrees with that, but they may very well. They may not. I don't know. For two Rava and Rava further, this was a custom of Rava. V'imam ahava azil ad mill. During the day, he would travel even as far as a mill to find a private place. Not a mile, a mill.
Isn't a mill something close to a mile?
Yeah, probably.
Do we know?
No, we do know. We know the measures. I just never remember them.
Yeah. And it seems like, I think we had this discussion when measurements came up someplace else. That's probably where the word mile comes from. You think?
No.
No?
No. No, a mile, they were, no. This is like from Amo. I think it's 2,000 Amo would be like half a mile. It's 4,000, no, I'm sorry. 2,000 mil is 4,000 feet.
All right, so it's
nearly
short of about 2/3 of a...
Right, so a mill is not, I don't know if a mill is...
It's approaching
It's
a
a
mile.
good, it takes a good amount of time to
Not
walk,
for a
maybe
stretch,
10
though,
minutes.
In my mind.
What?
If you're talking
could be.
about
It could
4,000
be.
feet, and a mile is 5,280. So
It could be. I'm not sure. I always, whenever you hear a mill, you want to say it's a mile, but I know it's not a mile, so.
Within
Right.
reasonable
Okay,
closeness to...
could be. You'd have to go to a book of etymology to figure out if that's where it comes from.
Bill should be here today.
Bill, there you go. So, so he says, all right, so Valelia, Amalei Shama, but at night, he wouldn't go to the day, he would say to a servant, Panuli duchta brachova demata, clear a place for me in the city street. He has to go to the bathroom, so clear a place for me in the city street. You see that even Rava did not distance himself at all at night. Why did he do it in the street? Now, again, he says, clear for me a place in the street, which means what? That there's nobody in the street anyway. Nobody's going to see him. And let's face it, the street was not paved with...
right. Dirt and rocks, right?
Yeah, that's all. So clear a place. Yeah.
Was he living in Roman times, or when was he living?
These are all the Roman times, yes.
Okay, so there might have been gutters. Probably was gutters. I don't know. The big
And
city.
this is
Well, you're assuming he's in the big city.
where?
I
And this
know.
is in Babylonia. Where are they?
They probably, Rava, I think, was in Babylonia. So I'm not sure, but it could have. It did not.
Gutters, it might.
It could have been gutters, but even still, there's. So what? You have to remember in the old days, what would they do with their chamber pots? They would dump it out the window. That is why the man always walks on the inside and the woman on the outside.
Oh.
No, the man always walks on the outside, and the woman always walks on the inside. To protect
The other. So fine. That's was.
What?
Okay, the man would always walk on the outside. Okay,
Wait.
because when you're throwing the stuff out, it would fall on his head.
When you walk next to a girl, the woman walks on the inside of the street, and the guy walks on the outside of the street.
Oh, that was because they would throw the refuse out of the window. No, that's what it was. So, however it was, whichever way the refuse would fall, that's where the man walked. And the woman walked on the other side. That's where that came from. But so you're seeing that they didn't, they didn't have clean streets.
Well, you can go right in the middle of the street.
What?
Would you go right in the middle of the street? I don't know. Does it say? That's what the horse is.
No, it's on the sidewalk. In other words,
Okay.
so they would just dump it. That's why. What?
No, in the other piles. In the other piles.
What do you mean the other
In
piles?
Roman cities and Roman small towns, really, there were gutter systems.
Okay, but still, in all, you have to.
People throwing stuff out the window, so there's a pile of poop. So it's building up, go back.
Potentially.
Yeah, potentially, so just go back to poop.
Right, which is why you have to, which is why you look down and see what,
That's why they didn't have phones back then.
Right. Yeah, the thing, Baruch Hashem, we have indoor plumbing, and that's the end of it. We just flush the toilet and it goes somewhere. And we don't want to know where. I'm not really interested in seeing the end of that trail. Okay. So then what happened? Another case is where he says, V'chein Amar le Rav Zera the Shama'i. That we also see that Rav Zera said to his servant at night, Chazeman, the Ika Chore Beit Chavraya Be'ina Lemifne. See who is behind the study hall as I need to defecate. Apparently, Rav Zera too did not distance himself at night. How can this bride be saying that modesty requires one to distance oneself then? Right here, you have two people who didn't distance themselves. So how can who are big rabbis? So how can you say it? So the Gemara says, "Lo tema b'makom." So let's amend the brayta. Don't say in the place that he defecates by the day. Ella, rather ema kedar shenifna b'yom. Rather say in the place that he defecates in a manner that he defecates by the day, in a modest manner. So one who practices modesty, even when none can observe him, may indeed be described as a modest person, which again is why in both these cases they would say, clear a place for me at night, make sure nobody's behind the base matters. Because I don't want to do it publicly, but I need to go. So that's it. And he explains, bikes, okay, we didn't get there. Oh no, we did. Okay, so he says, by exposing no more than a tefach in back and 2 tefachim in front, and not by exposing himself until seated. Okay, so we're going to get into the whole discussion too already. Rav Ashi Amar, an alternative answer, he says, Rav Ashi Amar, afilu tema b'makom. He may even say that the Breita reads in a place where he defecates by day, lo nisrucha aleva karen zavit. But for this statement is not meant as a reference to a distance, but is only needed to require him to use a private corner, just as he would during the day. Okay, so that's again, if there's a private corner nearby, he must make use of it just as he would during the day. With regard to halacha, Shulchan Aruch demands only that one be modest in exposing himself at night, but not that one use a private corner. However, in the Shulchan Aruch Harav, that's by Shnezam, a lady who requires use of a private corner even at night. Okay, fine. We have no problems because of the indoor plumbing, and we only have one stall in a bathroom normally in our home. So, and we shut the door, so we have 2 doors at least. So, it's not really a problem. No, and 1 door at home, right? Yeah. So then it says, the Gemara cites a Breita in support of the statement made by Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav Gufa. The text itself stated, Am Rav Yehuda Am Rav Le'olam Yanhig Adam Edesmo Shach Rav Yarva Kadesh Lo Yeh Tzarich Lidrachek. One should always accustom himself to defecate in the morning and at night and at times of darkness, so that he will not need to distance himself from others. Tanenami Hach, we have been taught in the Breita. Ben Azir Omer. Hashkem v'tzei ha'arei v'tzei kadesh lo tzarchei. Rise early and go out to defecate. Wait for evening and go out, so you will not need to distance yourself. And that's it. So now we have, he says, having decided at the beginning of this Breita, the Gemara continues with this conclusion, which consists of Ben Azai's advice for attempting to manually open the rectal opening before defecating. Why? Because you want to relieve constipation. Okay, this is some people today they would use, what's the thing called when you run the hot water through?
Run the what?
When you're running hot water into you because you have constipation. What's it called when you're with the tube?
Oh, the enema.
Enema. Some people we have an enema today. So he's using this, and he says Rashi says you accomplish this with a stone or a splinter of wood. Yes, we're getting it.
Or you could just fix your diet. There's an idea.
No, fixing your diet doesn't always. Well, yes, it helps, but again, constipation can happen for various reasons. It's not always just diet. By the way, if you're holding yourself in, you can cause your own problems. So, yeah. But anyway, every once in a while somebody deals with constipation or diarrhea. So either way. But diarrhea, you're not trying to stop it, right? So, but I'm just saying it could be a cold that got in your system. It could be anything. So mashmash v'shav, so his advice is mashmash v'shav. If he has to shave, ut mashmesh. One should first manipulate himself there, then sit down, but one should not first sit down and then manipulate himself. According to another interpretation, he says, this statement stresses the importance of cleaning the latrine seat before sitting upon it, so that one's clothing will not become soiled. However, Rashi rejects this interpretation, since this does not fit in the Bryce's subsequent mention of magic. But certainly, by the way, you should wipe off the seat before sitting on it, no matter where you're going, because you don't know what the person before you did. And so, yeah, I have to explain that one?
No.
Okay.
You're living by yourself. You know,
Say again?
You're living by yourself, so you know the only person using that toilet is you.
Then you have to wipe it.
I understand. But maybe you said you don't have to, you do.
Do not. Because you know there's nothing's there, right?
Besides what you have.
Unless someone
In
broke
other words,
the
you know,
house,
no, you know there's nothing. In other words, if you go by the first interpretation, I mean that you're worrying about one's clothes will become soiled. You know, if you know what you did, how.
Right.
Okay, so then you don't have to wipe it. But if you don't know who did what, anything, if you're sharing it, then you have to be careful. Certainly, if you're going into a place like a school, I mean, or a bus station, or I mean, you should
Wouldn't
be
it
very, very careful.
It wouldn't be like natural to if you see open the toilet and the seat is dirty, then the first thing that you do is to wipe it.
You would think. You would think. Okay.
Okay. Just take your mind back to then.
You would think. And also, you don't always see. If it's dark, you're not going to see everything.
Oh, right.
I mean, that's another problem if it's dark. So you have to go really back into their mindset, and furthermore, even today's mindset, where people, even though we're all separate, but you know, people still are not. They don't have. They're not clean in these public bathrooms. That's why you go in this. It smells. If they learn how to aim, it wouldn't smell. Let's be honest with it.
It's not that people don't know how to aim, so they choose not to.
Okay, whatever the case is going to be, but as a result of that, or there's stuff on the seats, and you know, you're thinking, how did you do that? Really? I mean, give me a break. And why didn't you clean it? For
The
crying out
last
loud?
guy got up too soon.
Whatever, and so you're wondering what's wrong with these people, you know, and so on and so forth. So, but like I said, it's not. You're right. I mean, most of us, I think, would walk away from we vomit, but you know. But that's also why they have in most places now the paper that you can take out and put down. Again, I'm thinking, you mean you want me to? You don't want me to clean? You just want me to put paper over it? What's your point there too? But all these things that we do because we want to be fastidious about it. Okay. And he said, "Shekola Yoshev Mashmesh," because for anyone who sits down and then manipulates himself, afilu osin kishafim baspamia ba'en alav. Even if they perform a magic in far-off land of Spain, it will come upon him and harm him. In other words, somebody's casting a spell. That's what he says. He says the Teshuvot Chavot Yair suggests that this has become because the impure forces of magic naturally seek out those like themselves, one coarse and immodest enough to first expose himself and then manipulate the opening, reveals the impurity of his nature, and thus brings the forces of impurity down upon himself. So here, that's why Rashi rejected, by the way, the original thing about wiping off the seat, because it doesn't match with the second part of that statement. That anybody sits down and then manipulates himself. Even the magic done to spamia can come to him. What does that have to do with wiping the seat? It would have nothing to do with wiping the seat. So he says he brings it down, but he rejects it. He says that's one explanation, but it doesn't fit the Gemara. He's also not saying that one should sit down without wiping the seat. Okay, what he's simply saying is that it doesn't match the Gemara. But apparently, somebody would do magic in Spain, which is far away. And so now you have, when everybody tries to manipulate the supernatural world, he brings impurity into the world. So who is that impurity going to attack? Only somebody who is like-minded. So this person who's doing this, he's coarse. That's the Teshuvah Chavot Yair is saying. And so it's going to attach itself to this guy. So another reason not to manipulate yourself after you're sitting down. And the Gemara asks, "V'i inshe v'yativ yachakach mishame mashmesh or mishmesh my tikante." Salal. Let's say one forgot, and he first sits, and then he manipulates himself. So he doesn't want the magic from any place to touch him. What should he do? How does he fix himself up? Apparently, what?
It just doesn't go. If you don't want the magic.
No. You already did it.
Oh,
You already sat down. You already manipulated yourself, and then you realize, I shouldn't have done that. So, what?
Is that the thing, the bad luck thing, throw salt on the shoulder?
Well, it's basically, so he says, Ki kai lemahachi, when he rises, let him say the following words. Lo li, lo li. I'll just give you the words and we'll look at it. Not upon me, not upon me. Lo tachim, lo tachtim. Let neither tachim nor tachtim affect me. Lo hani v'lo mahani. Let neither these spells nor a portion of these spells come upon me. Lo charshe de charasha, lo charshe de rachashta. Let neither the spell of the sorcerer nor the spells of the sorceress come upon me. He will then be protected from harm. So what's going on here? In the first part it says lo li, lo li. It means let the spells not affect me. Not tachim or tachtim. They are apparently the names of sorts of magic that are generated with excrement. Let neither these spells nor a portion of these spells come upon me. And so Rashi's first explanation. So Rashi says, first explanation, I saw it before. Where was it? At the bottom. So, lo kulam v'lo miksatan. Not all of them, not some of them. Okay? Notice he doesn't want all of them, nor some of them, fine. And then he also says, let them not be successful, let the magic spells not be successful longer, fine. And then, neither the spells of the sorcerer, that's the male, nor the female, should come upon me. And if he says those things after he gets up, then he too will be protected. Okay, there you go. So, always fun. Next page. So Tanya, we also has been taught in the Braita. Ben Azai Omer, Ben Azai said, "Al kol mishkav shachav chutz min hakarka." Lie upon any couch except for the ground, lest you take sick from the cold. You like that one? That's in other words, if you sleep directly on the ground.
So what does that mean? Like how much separation do you need from the ground to make sure you don't get sick? An inch, 2 inches?
No, you just want a sleeping bag.
And does this mean like on the
A sleeping bag.
This ground or like ground outside?
Ground outside.
Okay, fine. That might be good.
Okay. Al kol moshav shev chutz min hakara. He said, sit upon any chair except for a high beam, lest you fall. Okay. So looking at health stuff here, yeah.
Well, the high beam has another sort of, basically a support, or not support beam, but you're sitting on the beam and you have another beam behind you. You have it behind you. You build it up just. No, like if you're in the rafters for some reason and there's a bunch of beams, and for some reason the beams line up where you can sit on a beam and lean against the beam. Is that okay?
Any place you're not going to get hurt, that's what you're looking at. In other words,
You shouldn't sit on a beam because it might fall. What if you're sitting on a beam and unless you fall out like down that way.
Well, let's see what happens. Okay, let's see. So the more information you have, the more you can get. So it says, Agalos Yavas questions the first statement of lie upon any couch except for the ground. He says on the basis of he questioned on the basis of the well-known Mishnah that recommends that one sleep on the ground as a way of eschewing physical pleasures. Fine. He explains that our Gemara refers to one lying naked upon the ground who is endangered by the chill of the ground. The Mishnah, on the other hand, is discussing where one wears clothing or lying upon a blanket, who is in no danger at all. It simply means to warn him against sleeping in a sumptuous bed. So there you go. Apparently, and now again, they did not. When people were going to sleep, sometimes they didn't wear clothes, or they wore the nightgowns, whatever. Things can happen.
So you cannot sleep naked. Is that what they're saying?
No, if you're going to be naked, you shouldn't be on the ground. That's what they're saying.
Oh, okay.
As far as sleeping naked, is it's not modest.
Wait.
You heard what I said? It's not modest.
What?
You have to be modest in front of Hashem too. It's not a matter of only when. That's why we can't do. That's why when we're getting dressed in the morning, even though nobody else is there, we're still not supposed to expose ourselves, because Hashem is everywhere, and just as the king is there. And yes, he did see you naked, coming out of your mother's womb, and so on and so forth, and he saw and you and changed your diapers 100%. Good, all those wonderful things. He sees you, everything. Good. But it doesn't mean that we should say, well, since you saw that, again, because compared to, well, since I walked around with my Speedo at the beach, I can do it in the middle of Manhattan. Okay? And I know some people say, I would do it. I'm sure you would. And I always look at them, I'm sure you would. Okay? But it doesn't make it right. Okay? So then, and the second one person on a high beam may become fearful, whereupon Satan, the heavenly adversary, will begin to agitate him. And so then he will put himself into bad danger. So if you're not sitting on a place where you may become fearful, so then the Satan can't do anything. But by the way, anytime you put yourself into danger, then all of your merits, and we had this before, the court case begins. The minute I put myself into danger, the court case begins. So now because as the angel is saying, why does he think he has such merit? That's what the Satan does, right? Why does Reuven think he has so much merit? He's putting himself into danger. Rabban Shalom, what are you doing? Oh, the case begins. Merit. Okay, now we have to decide, does Reuven have what it takes to survive the fall, or to survive whatever he's going to do? And depending on the answer will determine whether he lives or dies at that particular day, okay, or that moment. So again, it's a matter of don't put yourself into danger, that sort of thing. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, Shina ba'amud shachar ki istema leparzla. Sleep at dawn is as beneficial to a person as steel is to iron. And that means steel, which is refined iron, is... Huh?
Okay, keep going.
Is much stronger and harder than ordinary cast iron. It was a practice to coat iron implements with steel so that they should be strong and sharp. Sleep at dawn is as beneficial to a person as steel is to an iron implement. Late morning sleep, by contrast, is harmful for a person, since one who indulges in it might not recite the Shema in a timely manner. Furthermore, since sleep at this time is overly pleasurable, it might lead one to neglect of the study of Torah. An alternative interpretation of Shmuel's statement relates Shena as urination. He thus states that urination at dawn is beneficial to a person as a steel is to iron. You were going to ask?
No, I was going to ask, because steel is better than iron, so why is 2 iron?
There you go.
Plate with iron. Okay.
Right. So, good. So, Yitzia ba'amud shachar ki istma parzla. And going out at dawn to defecate, again, is as beneficial to a person as steel is to iron. So, all these are good things to do. Bar kapara hava mezaben mile bedinare. So, Bar kapara would sell words of wisdom for dinarim. You've heard of dinero? Dinero, right?
Yeah.
Money?
Yeah.
This is when I say they got dinero for dinara. That I think they did. What? I'm just saying I think that's where it probably came from, because that's
What was it in this
dinarim.
dinaro? So is that
Dinare, yeah.
Can that be a transliteration of the Latin words, like we have?
Could have been.
What do we have when we talk about the Caesars of Rome? We have our name came from, which is just a transliteration of
Caesar, yeah.
Caesar, which is Caesar.
Yeah,
So
could be. Something comes from something. Okay, so Bar Kappara surely did not accept remuneration for teaching words of Torah. Why?
because you can't.
Because you can't. It's forbidden. You're not allowed to teach oral Torah for compensation. So how do teachers get paid?
For other time.
For time, for the other stuff, but they don't get paid for teaching Gemara or anything like that. Okay? If I'm teaching how to read, you should pay me $1 million. That's what it says. You can get paid for that because that is not oral tradition. That's just torture. So, so you can do it that. If it's even oral written tradition, there's the Torah, Tanakh, you can get paid. But once it goes into oral tradition, you're not supposed to be paid. Because just as Moshe was not paid, and he is Moshe Rabbeinu, he is the model teacher, so also we should not get paid. So how could it be that he would sell his words for wisdom? So he says, no, he didn't, for Tanar, I'm sorry. He said, certainly he did not accept remuneration for teaching words of Torah. Rather, the Gemara here refers to Bar Kappar's ethical teachings and to his common sense teachings regarding everyday life, both of which he would propound for payment. Alternatively, the Gemara does not mean that Bar Kappara actually accepted payment for his words. Rather, he would not propound any teaching until convinced that his words were as valuable as money to his listeners. Okay, in other words, that sounds better for Bar Kappara the second way. So it says, Ad de chafnat echol. When you are hungry, eat at once. Okay, why? He says, before the desire to eat leaves you. For if you wait, the desire will disappear and the food will not be beneficial. The Rambam interprets this Gemara to mean that the reasons for reasons of health, one must not eat unless he is hungry. So that's the other way, by the way. When he's hungry, eat. If you're not hungry, don't. How many people eat when they're hungry? Most people. Most people eat when they're hungry. Right? That's why we're fat.
Or we eat too much when we are hungry.
Because you're not eating when you're hungry. You're agreeing with me. You're agreeing with the Gemara. You're agreeing with Bar Kappara. No matter what, you're agreeing with him. Because that's his point. When you're hungry, eat. Okay, the Chidush Yagra interprets each of Bar Kappara's prosaic maxims as a metaphor for an ethical truth. He therefore explains that the Gemara refers to a spiritual hunger for Torah. Bar Kappara warns, like physical hunger for Torah, must be satisfied at once, lest it depart and not return for some time. It said in the Yerushalmi, if you Yom ta'azveni yomayim ezveka, if you forsake me, the Torah, one day, I'll forsake you for two. One should therefore not put off Torah study, but should fulfill his desire for it at once. By the way, let's look at this for a second. Think about this. When you're hungry, if you don't eat, what will happen? You'll get hungry, or you would argue, right? You should get hungry and it should bother you. But what happens? You stop mowing lawns. You start doing something else. In other words, you couldn't get the food. So you do what you're supposed to do. And next thing you know, 3 hours have passed and you didn't think about it. You get a headache. Right? And what happens? You get a headache. So most people will pop a couple of aspirins today and that's it. What would happen though if I just looked up from the book, looked outside and just relaxed? The headache probably will go, unless it's a real major headache, will go away in a relatively fast manner. Or if I was doing something else, somebody starts to talk to me, get my mind off myself, again, the headache will go away. Okay? The same thing with the bathroom. Sometimes you have to go to the bathroom and you can't get there because somebody else is there, or you can't get there fast enough. You're on the highway. What happens? Sometimes that desire goes away. You know, somehow the body realizes you can't go now, so okay, stop bothering me, and it does. I don't know how it does it, but it goes back or something like that. Yeah. And then until finally you get to the bathroom, then suddenly you feel like the world's going to collapse on you. But again, all these things. So if I'm learning Torah, if I have desire to learn Torah, and I say, give me 5 minutes. So what's the odds that something else is going to come up? I'm not going to get that desire for another 2 hours, another 3 hours, whatever, until I'm finished with my job. So that's why, according to that, he should do it right away. Good. So ad sachet shti. When you are thirsty, drink at once, so that the drink will be beneficial. Same thing, the Rambam derives that from the Gemara that is unhealthy to drink unless one is thirsty. Same argument. The Chedushi Agra interprets this maxim as referring to the performance of mitzvot. When one feels a desire to perform a mitzvah, he should do so without delay. This accords with the statement of the Mechilta, Im ba mitzvah liyadcha asei ota miyad. If a mitzvah comes to one's hand, perform it immediately. In other words, you have the chance, you do it. You don't wait and say, because if you did wait, what's going to happen? It may go away. You may not have that opportunity again. Okay. By the way, that's the same thing with stocks or with anything. If I let it go just a little bit, I may lose out the opportunity. So, it's advice that can carry you through a lot of things. When your pot is boiling, when you need to defecate, pour it out at once. When your pot, he said it in nice language. He said it in nice language. When your pot is boiling, which means when you need to defecate, pour it out at once, lest you become in danger by delay. Yes.
Or could it be if you're cooking, you don't want to
stop. You're just making a joke. You're trying to make a joke.
Let him finish.
If you're cooking with a hot boiling water, you don't want it to boil over or the flames to burn the house down, so you have to throw the water off, turn the fire down.
Well, they didn't have to turn the fire down.
But I'm just...
Remember, they had a stove. The stove was a wood stove.
Right. No, yeah.
So, by the way, if the water would go over, like on our stove, the fire wouldn't go up. It would become. It would go up by itself. If your water is boiling, right, and it spills over, what it does is it automatically puts the fire out.
No.
Yeah, it does.
Like,
Water puts fire out.
Yeah. Are we talking about on a wood stove or on a gas stove? It depends on how much water is
It's going to squelch it somehow.
If there's enough water, then it will put the fire out. If there's not enough
No, I'm saying, but it's going to.
Directly on, but if it's overflowing, it's going. It burns a little bit, but it doesn't.
Yeah, but I'm saying it would put it out. It wouldn't burn the house down. That's my point.
No,
Right. But he wasn't saying that. He was just saying, he was speaking nice language. That's all he was doing. And he says, defecate without delay, for postponement again can be dangerous to health. Chedushi Agra. And this is what you want to keep going to, because he's giving the other interpretation. He questions this interpretation since the point of pouring out a portion of the contents of a boiling pot is to ensure that the rest, and here's what you're saying, the rest of his contents will not boil over on his own accord and be lost. There you go. But according to Rashi's interpretation, this point is irrelevant. That's when you go, Okay. Chidushi Agra therefore explains that the boiling pot is a metaphor for one who amasses much treasure. Bar Kapoor is advising that he immediately pours some of it for distribution among the poor. This will save the rest of his wealth from being squandered and lost. So it's an interesting way to look at that, right? You have the last part is you hit the mega bucks. So what do? You take some of that money off and you give it to the poor, or you put it, and then the rest of it will be saved from being squandered and lost. So it's a couple of different ways that Chedushi Agra looks at that statement. Then so good. So you got a little bit. He got a little bit. Everybody got. So Karna Karya Barome, when a horn sounds in Rome as a signal for fig buyers to make their purchases, then bar mezavein te'ene de avuch zavein. Let the son of a fig seller sell the figs of his father, lest the buyers depart and the father lose the profit of the fruit. So here we go. Chedushi Agra once again helps us out. He says, explains that the figs are a metaphor for Torah. Bar Kapoor is discussing one's obligation to teach Torah. He rules that even if one is unable to learn on his own, he is still obligated to teach others the Torah he acquired from his father. and we'll stop there. Baruch Tehiyah.